Well, stamp my renewal. Your Majesty, how splendid to have you back at the Academy. From the moment we first met, I knew you were someone who understood the value of knowledge, of learning. It's one of the things that sets you apart from your brother. As you know, King Logan closed the Academy and cut all our funding. I don't know whether he considered education a waste of time or a threat to his power. Your father believed the Academy should archive information and make it available to all, and I share that belief. We have many books here, yet many more languish in obscurity. If they're not found, their wisdom will be lost forever. The Academy needs a hero as much as the people of Albion do. Will you help us to retrieve these rare tomes? Oh, thank the gods of documentation. The Academy will continue to grow just as your father envisioned. Whenever you find a book in your travels, bring it to my desk, and I will give it a good home. I know of several that exist and have already prepared displays for them. All you have to do is to place them accordingly.
Ah, hello.
Well, hello there. I could use your help, you know, cleaning up the streets.
Chapter 2, in which the author sees the real world for the first time. What little gold I had saved in my youth had gone into the quick succession of funerals described in the previous chapter, not to mention paying off the gambling and business debts of those who were now in the ground. And so it was that I left my so-called home as penniless as I had entered it 17 years previously. Unable to embark on my career as an explorer, I found myself gravitating towards the main cities and doing a variety of jobs. I stocked books at the Brightwall Library, absorbing as much knowledge about the world from those precious pages as I could. I served drinks at the Cow and Corset in Bowerstone, once I'd established that my comedy routines were getting me nowhere among the ever slightly more sophisticated urban rabble, and eventually managed to put my shooting skills to proper employ as one of the many bodyguards who protect traders as they go from town to town. At last, holding a real rifle in my hands and using it against the bandits, hobs and other undesirables who the trading caravans attracted felt as natural as breathing. Not only that, the wages were so superior to any I had earned before, I'd soon put away enough gold to make my dream come true. I loaded myself with provisions, weapons and a good set of leather boots and set out to experience the sort of adventures I'd read about since so young an age, exploring every corner of Albion as I did so.
Marcus Ivy was the fourth ruler to be named Marcus. However, he believed this fact diminished his importance, so he insisted that the letters after his name were merely an oddly spelled surname. No member of his court ever took issue with this, partly out of fear of reprisal, and partly because, well, how could you have that conversation and not have it be unbelievably awkward?
Thank you, thank you. I know you can do it.
When you find yourself in a sword fight, just make sure you gut the other fellow first. Easy, what?
None knew from whence they came, nor to whence they would go upon completing their terrible orgy of bloodshed. All that was known was that they came, and Armageddon came with them. They killed everyone, and in unimaginably horrible ways. Ways that, even if they were imaginable, you wouldn't want to imagine them, believe me. Their rampage left the village desolated. And for generations, the few survivors and their offspring could barely bring themselves to speak the name of that most terrifying of evils, Puffin.
Grease 1 large round cake pan. Combine flour, eggs, butter, sugar and salt in a large mixing bowl. Beat thoroughly, then pour mixture into cake pans. Bake for 30 minutes and allow to cool. Note: this activity is, in fact, perfectly safe. And most appropriate for right before your mum discovers you've done any of the other things described in my book.
Carl Tendency was hunting with a friend when tragedy struck. Attempting to climb over a mossy log, Carl slipped and his rifle fired, the bullet striking his friend squarely in the chest. It was almost certainly an accident, but still, he did kill him. So I'm well within my rights to include it here. I guess given the banality of the circumstances, he wasn't really famous. But when this book comes out, he bloody well will be there.
King Cedric the Just but Fair was a lover of the arts. He commissioned elaborate spectacles at his palace, often with himself as the main performer. He particularly enjoyed shadow puppetry. When not on stage, Cedric introduced several harsh and unorthodox legal reforms. During his reign, over 70 members of the aristocracy were executed. 3 for treason, 1 for conspiracy, and 68 for misidentifying the animal or thing he was depicting.
Xavier Smedley is a unique entry in our rogues gallery of famous killers, in that he is neither famous nor a killer. However, I've always disliked him, and it is my sincere hope that his very inclusion on this list will be seen by prospective romantic partners, their parents, or future employers, and make his life difficult. If he didn't want that trouble, he shouldn't have sat in my chair.
And when you're shooting things, just don't miss. It's as simple as that.
Baron von Orfen was a dabbler in the black arts, particularly alchemy. As a young nobleman, he applied a sample of his own blood, mixed with various alchemical substances, to a mandrake root, and created a small, diminutive version of himself, a homunculus. It was his dark aim that this creation would become a vessel for any ailment or malady which would otherwise plague the Baron himself. From that day forward, Baron von Orfen suffered no disease, no wound, no wart, nary any affliction at all. Thus it was that the Baron lived well past the age of 80, until one day he accidentally knocked the homunculus into an alembic of powerful acid. There it promptly dissolved, and the horrified Baron, seeing this, steeled himself for the worst, but was fine. Turns out he just had a really amazing constitution.
You might...
Boo! Boo! Our prices are not our fault. It's all about market forces.
Best goods in Albion, right here in this shop.
The first core principle of our economic theory can be summarized thusly. Greed is good for you. Now, let us clarify who we mean by you. Not you, at least not actually. Greed is directly good for the government, because the more you spend to acquire material possessions, feed your family, etc., the stronger the economy becomes, and the more the government earns in taxes. A strong economy coupled with a strong government creates an environment in which progress is endless, and virtually anything is possible, and therein lies the indirect benefit of your... Of course, given your greediness, in all likelihood you will never survive long enough to benefit from society's affluence, being mostly overweight yourself. But children, yes, they will be predisposed predisposed to obesity and an early death just as you were, but their short lives will be far more luxurious than yours. Which brings us to the second principle. Quality is more than quantity.
As he grew older, he became obsessed with his own mortality. Actually, at first he was obsessed with someone else's mortality, but then he switched to his own. He had heard the legends of the fabled elixir of immortality and the fables of the legendary spirit of the ages, so he summoned all knights of the realm to go forth and search for the key to eternal life. So it was he that he decreed any knight who returns without the elixir will be executed. So none of them came back, and he died in due course. It was not one of Oswald's better decrees.
Ready to serve, Your Majesty.
Now, sir. The king! Wow!
Anything happening in the world?
You been to the little sale close by?
Fantastic!
Terence posture returned from work on an otherwise uneventful day to find his wife in bed with another man. Unable to control his rage, Posture leapt upon the couple with the firm intention of killing them both. However, his hands found only one throat. When all was said and done, his wife lay dead, and the unknown adulterer had fled. I think I left one of my good shoes there, too.
Monarchy isn't working, I tell you. We want something with votes and stuff like that.
Gunpowder is the most destructive tool ever devised by man. It has forever changed the face of warfare, allowing an untrained peasant to kill a highly disciplined professional soldier with virtually no effort. Scholars have begun to speculate Could this formidable development destroy the concept of chivalry? Perhaps even that of mercy? Only time will tell, and this troubling debate has only just begun. Also, gunpowder is used in force to celebrate various occasions, and if you light off even a quite small one in your hand, it'll hurt very, very badly. I cannot overstate how unthinkably horrible pain is.
Spending all the years of your young life on a small farm in a backwater county has made you restless. Who knows what flight of fancy or idle daydream first sparked your desire for adventure? But once ignited, the flames of wanderlust could not be extinguished, not even by the water of looking at things in more realistic terms, and perhaps considering a career in excavation. Your parents tried to reason with you, but the protests of the old ring hollow in the ears of a strong-willed young farm boy or girl like you. And so now you stand at a crossroads. It's a nice one, with newly painted signs and a bench. If you want to head east towards the ominous ruin, turn to page 2. To go west towards the ancient forest, turn to page 4. To head north towards the snow-covered mountains, turn to page 156. If you want to go south, which is back home, read this page again.
Getting struck by lightning is a very bad thing. Usually it'll kill you outright. You have a 1 in 2 million chance of being struck by lightning. The best defense is never to go outside during a storm. Even safer, don't go outside at all, ever. Find a nice big building like an observatory and just hide and
Quentin stood over the sleeping form and clenched the knife tightly in his hand. Here was the woman he loved, the first person who'd shown him true affection, the wonderful creature whose very laugh made him want to sing. Could he really go through with this? One transgression, what she had tearfully labeled a terrible mistake. For that, did she deserve death? He wrestled with the question for what seemed an eternity. But while his logical mind desperately tried to stay his hand, in his liver he knew what he must do. He raised the blade. It glinted with deadly promise in the moonlight, then vanished as he plunged it into his darling.
King Logan is an evil tyrant. Monarchy, what is it good for? Never should the lives of the many be controlled by the will of one man. Or woman. Seen that. Doesn't work either. Anyway, what we need is a republic. In the past, I've called for democracy, but I was speaking to some people and they really opened my eyes to this republic thing. Rise up to overthrow the monstrous autocrat. In the meantime, appoint me as supreme ruler. I will faithfully oversee the transition from monarchy to republic, strictly on a temporary basis. Really, no, really, I mean it. You can trust me. King Logan's greed knows no bounds. How cruelly does he fleece our citizens of our one coin through his onerous and unjust... And how cruelly does his lick-spittle lackey, that rapacious dog Reaver, harshly exploit his poor, unfortunate workers. The time has come for change. Real change. What we need is a democracy. I know, I'm always on about republics, but I did some further reading and I really think democracy offers a pretty compelling package. Shake off the yoke of monarchy, good people, and join me in the glorious struggle to create a new democracy. Or a republic is fine if you really have your heart set on that, but I do think we'd be missing out on a few things. As usual, my offer to oversee all aspects of government during the transition is still on the table.
The rapidity with which industry has developed in Albion is nothing short of extraordinary. One need only visit one of Bowerstone Industrial's great factories to witness the majesty of modern technology in action. However, while visiting a factory, one must be aware of one's surroundings. Stand too close to exposed machinery, and one could lose a finger, or even an arm. Or a spouse. And what was ultimately ruled to be a regrettable accident, wherein no party was at fault.
Oh my, it's the... Greetings, my liege.
Many have sought the elixir of immortality, the secret wisdom of the ages, the hidden lore that the tablet speaks of. Few have found it, and by few I mean none, and by none I mean one, and by one I mean me, and by mean I mean imply. Anyway, I have found the elixir, and now everlasting youth is mine. At last the ultimate dream is realized, to live for all eternity. In that time I will ponder the greatest questions, such as, do I stay my current age from now on? Or could I actually be younger forever? And if so, how would that age be chosen? And will my body still change according to diet and exercise? Or is there a sort of implied perfect health that goes along with the longevity? And what happens if I'm shot or I fall off a cliff? Can that kill me? Am I only safe from a death by natural causes? And what about fertility? Will I be able to have children 10,000 years from now? I actually need longer than eternity to answer these.
This is for you.
Well...
Of you in the neck.
Boxing is a wonderful activity for boys. The first thing you need mate willing to let you hit him is a pair of boxing gloves. These can be purchased from a leather craftsman or stolen out of the locker of a boy you don't like. The idea behind boxing gloves is twofold: to protect the hands and to minimize injury to the opponent. At least, that's what you should tell your mum when you ask her to buy them for you. You sound very mature. Now, be sure to use that word twofold as well. That will really impress her. Anyway, the real point of boxing gloves is they allow you to hide large heavy metal weights, which will really knock your opponent's lights out. That'll teach him.
Remote locations are ideal for contemplating the night sky, as there is generally little in the way of ambient light. However, these ideal viewing conditions may come at a price. Witness the occasion upon which I went stargazing in a particularly remote and forgotten graveyard. So absorbed was I with the magnificent spectacle of the heavens that when a figure approached, I assumed it was another admirer of the cosmos. I attributed his shambling gait to amazement at the majesty of the stars, his low moans to wonder. I began to pontificate on the constellation Quite Large Spoon Majoris, and when the newcomer did not respond, I lowered my eyes, only to have him attempt to put them out with a rusty pike clenched in his skeletal hand. He was largely unsuccessful in this endeavour, I am happy to report. Still, the episode was a bit unsettling.
Welcome to the...
They're all cowards.
At your service, my king.
Oh, I love doggies. I love throwing them into the river in a sack.
Get about 100 handkerchiefs. Stealing them is an economical alternative to buying them. Stitch, glue, or tape them together, tie a string to each corner, go to the highest place you can find, put 2 strings in each hand, and then jump off. Note, this activity does pose significant risks and should not be attempted except under favourable wind conditions. Even then, you'd have to be completely insane.
Death is not the end of life.
Balverines? I've killed 50 of them, with nothing but a rusty cutlass. The moon? I've been there, in a great balloon. It's amazing.
and almost never rains. Spells and that, I know them all. Cuisine, ha! Every dish ever prepared, I've eaten it. Inventions, that was me. I invented them. Oh, and I wrote this book. Not impressed? Well, you would be if you knew I was illiterate. Huh? And paralysed. And blind.
If it were up to me, no one would ever get sick. They'd just die, starting with you! Dogs are noble, loyal, and faithful. They're right tasty, too.
Ladders have myriad uses, being of great value if one needs to assault a castle or clean the gutters. However, whatever the task at hand, the climber should take care to ensure the ladder is properly balanced and safely angled, and that a third party is present to spot the climber. Further, this spotter should be careful to stand on the outside of the ladder, not underneath, and should ideally move quickly out of the way in the event that the climber accidentally drops a very large joiner's mallet. In retrospect, a more apt name for this treatise would have been Dangerous Things Joiner's Mallets.
I conjure thee, O thou mighty and potent Prince of Darkness, Almadiel, who wanders in the ether. I conjure thee forthwith to appear here with thy attendants, in this the witching hour of night. Stand before me in this circle, herein inscribed. Come forth in a fair and comely shape, to do my will in all things that I shall desire of you. Do not appear as the shadow. I abjure thee. Here be the seal of Almadiel, by which I command you.
By the decimal-based system of subject classification, ha! You have the invocation of the Watchers. Did it, you know, were there... well, never mind. You're here and you brought the book. That's the important thing. You really are an amazing book collector. Which actually, when I say it out loud, doesn't sound that impressive, but still, I meant it sincerely. Another tome for our collection. I shall enjoy reading it myself later. Thank you so much. It's absolutely splendid. Oh, which one is that? I can't wait to have a read.
Teresa had said, "Take my hand." Hammer had done as she was told, and at the touch of the warm flesh, she felt a surge within her, a feeling at first that she couldn't identify. It was scary, but it was arousing too. She had had thoughts of women before, but never acted on them. Now it was all she could think about. It made her excited as she had been the night she secretly spied on Garth and Reaver. They were so forceful with each other, and yet so tenderly yielding. The memory of that night brought a sickeningly delicious pit to her stomach. Her pulse quickened. She let her robe slip from her shoulders and stepped into the warm bath, thinking of the two men. She began to recreate that night in her mind. Next chapter, Dark Wizard, Passionate Rogue.
Got it. Fantastic. I can't wait to read it. Apparently, the author, Miss Ilona Pureheart, wrote extensively about the adventures of the four heroes. I've heard rumours of an even rarer work of hers involving Lucian and Jack of Blades, which is odd, as I thought Jack was defeated centuries before Lucian was even born. Curious. I just love it when you bring us a book. It fills my heart with joy. It does. Splendid work. Our library is almost completely replenished. And I have some rather exciting news. I found the location of a book I've been itching to get my hands on for years. It's Reaver's autobiography. He wrote it some time ago and it sold out instantly. The rumour is that Reaver bought up all the copies. It created a huge demand, and so the publisher did a second run, and the price went up. Then Reaver went to work for King Logan and reinvented himself as a respectable businessman. The books became a liability, and every copy was located and destroyed. But that first run is still out there, buried for eternity. Unless you are so kind as to locate a copy for me. The book's called Reaver on Reaver. Not a pleasant image. Wonderful. I am so pleased. There is one slight hitch. The information I've received indicates it's bedded in Aurora, out in the deserts that surround the city. Did I not mention that before? Oh, I'm sorry. Anyway, it'll be a nice trip. It's warm, and I hear the sunsets are simply magnificent. And you'll have plenty to read when you get there. Think of it as a kind of holiday, a literary adventure, a thrilling expedition. Well, I'm sure it will be interesting one way or another. Another book for the Academy. How wonderful!
Young Reaver, an autobiography. Prologue. Dear devotees, you hold in your hands a slice of history, an unadulterated and adulterated account of one of the longest, fullest, and most scandalous lives ever lived. For the intellectually challenged amongst you, and I can say with some certitude that such a definition includes most of you, my dear readers, I present here a brief, abridged extract from one of my least demanding chapters. I do hope you can keep up. Who knows? Perhaps your dim little minds will be encouraged to consume the entire volume. Not that I care a jot. I have your money already. And should you have shoplifted a copy, or far worse, borrowed one from those appalling institutions known as libraries, be warned that I will find you and perform many of the acts described in Chapter 12 upon your person. Now, read on, my loves. Chapter 17. The senile old hag was as good as her word, and I found myself magically transported to the land of Samarkand, thousands of miles from the bloody spire. There, my good fortune ended, however, as I soon found that insufferable bore Garth materializing beside me. This so-called scholar turned out to have little to teach me about his homeland, little of interest at least. I had come seeking hot nights, exotic substances, and uninhibited people, and found an excess of the first, a miserly amount of the second, and a definite shortage of the third. Still, my stay was not without its highlights. One particular evening springs to mind, my last one. I'd followed my humorless, pedantic companion into what I can only describe as the worst tavern ever to deserve such a mortal. Its pitiful cordials and feeble spirits did nothing to improve my mood, and the air was so thick with stodgy conversation, one grew constipated merely by listening. It was then that I had the brilliant notion that would simultaneously catapult me out of that humdrum country and put an end to Garth's miserable existence, as well as diverting me for several minutes. I stood up in front of the sober crowd and, well, my darlings, there the extract ends. You will have to read the rest of the book to find out what happened. Cliffhangers are such a cheap authorial trick, I know, but one that is not beyond me, as you shall see when you reach the end of chapters 2, 6, 7, and 22. Now, run ahead, you little scamps. Plunge your clammy, thirsty fingers into the pages before you. I hope you enjoy reading their contents as much as I enjoyed living them.
Reaver's autobiography. Oh, marvelous. I shall enjoy reading that tonight with a glass of milk and a digestive. No doubt it'll be full of salacious ribaldry. Ooh, I can't wait. Oh, and good work, by the way. I hope it wasn't too dangerous or anything like that. You've managed to get every book ever. Well, I exaggerate, of course. There is one more book. One more special book before we can call our collection complete. And it's here. Ah, can you believe it? In the Reliquary beneath this very academy. It was locked away a long time ago, and for a good reason. It's called The Book of Doom. It sounds bad, I know, but don't worry. As long as you don't read it, you should be fine. Assuming you survive the inevitable attacks by whatever awful creature happens to be guarding it. I knew you'd come through for me. Now remember, just don't read it when you find it. To think, The blessed thing's been beneath us the whole time. It needed but a hero to retrieve it. You will find it behind a locked door in the Reliquary. Good luck.
If you read this book, you are doomed. Don't read another line. Not another word, all right? You'll still read it. Don't read